I'm Jen, and this is a little bit of everything. Today we are going to be making a winter favorite of mine, potato soup. Now, we're going to start with about a ½ pound or 6 thick strips of bacon, and we're going to cut that down really quickly into little pieces. Now we're going to step right over here into our small skillet, and we're going to turn the heat up on high. We're going to let that warm up for a second, and then we're going to move our diced bacon to our skillet. Our skillet's nice and hot, is right at the smoking point, so we're going to go ahead and transfer our bacon over here. We're not trying to get this extra crispy, so it doesn't matter that I put a lot of bacon in a little skillet. The honest truth is right now I'm actually more after the bacon grease than I am after the bacon bits. Our bacon is frying up nicely. We're going to fry it until it's just before it's done, or about where my husband likes it when it's chewy. We'll be right back with you as soon as this bacon is ready to be pulled out of the skillet. Okay, now we're back and our bacon bits are right where I want them. So we're going to go ahead and take the bacon itself and put it over here on a paper towel. We're going to take this yummy salty bacon grease, and it's going to go into our stock pot right over here. We're going to move the stock pot over onto the heat. We're going to knock our stove down to a medium-high heat. We're going to put our bacon bits aside for now. These will come into play again later. The bacon grease in our stock pot has got a beautiful sizzle going right now. So now we are going to add to that our mixed vegetables, which is 1 large onion diced, 2 cups of celery diced, and 2 cups of carrots diced. We're going to add that to our stock pot and our bacon grease. Stir this around in our stock pot where everything gets nicely coated with the bacon grease. Now we're going to start with the first bit of salt and pepper. We're going to start with 1 teaspoon of each. 1 of that. And 1 of that. One of the biggest tricks to soups is to remember to season at every step. We're going to mix that around. We're going to mix that around. The bacon grease, the salt and the pepper is all nicely in there. Make sure you get a good spread of even across the bottom of your pot. Now we're going to put a lid on this and let it cook down for about 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll be right back. Okay, our first start of the veggies is looking perfect. They still have some crunch to them, but they've absorbed a lot of flavor and developed a lot of flavor in just those couple minutes. Now we are going to add our 3 heaping tablespoons of garlic. You always add the garlic last so you don't accidentally burn it. I'm going to mix that around. add roughly 12 cups of water to this. We've got our first 12 cups in the pot. We are going to bring that up to a full rolling boil, and then we are going to add 12 more cups. We'll be right back to you when we're ready to add the next batch of water. We are now at a nice full rolling boil. We're going to add our next 12 cups of water to the pot. You could have done it all at once, but I get impatient, so it helps me to do it in stages. To this, we are going to add our 1 whole cup of chicken bouillon, chicken base. We're going to stir that around until it breaks up and becomes part of the water. Or you could always use a fortune in chicken broth. Our chicken base is added in and it's all mixed around. Now we are going to add our 5 pounds of washed and diced potatoes. Again, I'm very impatient, so I like small, diced, bite-sized pieces of potato. These will boil up quickly. So we're going to add that to our pot with our water, well, our chicken stock and our veggies. Careful, this does splash. There we go. Good. We're going to stir that around and bring it back up to a full rolling boil again. We're going to hold it there until our potatoes are tender. This is nice and thick, and we are going to bring it back up to a full rolling boil. We're going to leave it there long enough for the potatoes to get nice and tender. I'll be right back with you once I'm at the boil I want. Our pot is now at a full rolling boil. We're going to go ahead and pull out 1 little chunk of potato and we're going to test it. I'm going to grab a fork, I'm going to turn it on its side, I'm going to put the fork in. These are almost ready. They've got about another 2 to 3 minutes to boil. I'm going to put that back in our pot. And we're going to let it boil for a couple more minutes. It's been a couple more minutes. Our potatoes are feeling nice and tender on our spoon, so I'm going to pull 1 more out and we're going to check that. They should pretty much nearly fall apart. And we're there. That's going to go back into our pot now. We are going to start thickening the potato soup now. There are many different ways to thicken potato soup. A lot of people use cornstarch. Personally, I like using instant potatoes. We're going to start that by adding our instant potatoes 1/2 cup at a time to our boiling water. Stir each bit around, and we're going to see how thick it makes this. 1/2 cup wasn't enough, we're going to keep going. There's another 1/2 cup. Stir it around. Make sure to scrape the bottom so that your instant potatoes don't settle down there and burn. One more 1/2 cup. And keep stirring. You'll see this is starting to make your water thicker and more opaque, as in it's not clear like broth anymore. We're now at 2 cups of instant potatoes to this pot. But I want more. I like a nice, thick potato soup. That's looking better. 3 cups of instant potatoes. And we're right about where I want this. It's thick, but not super thick. I'm going to put this away, and then we're going to start gradually adding our milk. Now, we've got our soup to the right thickness that we want. We're going to turn our pot down to a medium-low heat and get it cool so it stops boiling. You got to remember, when you add milk to anything that's boiling, you take the chance of it separating, and that will ruin your flavor and your texture. We want this creamy. Once these bubbles stop, we're going to go ahead and start adding our milk 1 cup at a time until it gets a nice creamy look. Our bubbles have almost stopped. Now we are going to start adding our milk 1 cup at a time. We're going to stir that around and see where we're at. I'm going to add our 1 more cup of milk to this. Again, we're going to stir it around and see where we're at. I'm thinking maybe another cup or 2 of milk, so I'm going to measure me out 2 more cups. There's 1 more cup, and we are just about there. This last cup ought to finish it off perfectly. There we go. Yes. It's creamy, it's thick, it's hearty. So, we're going to go ahead and now we're going to add our cheese. We're going to add about half of our 2 cups of grated cheddar cheese. I'm going to add that a handful at a time. We're going to sprinkle it around. And then we're going to stir it so we don't get a giant cheese ball in our soup. You want it to melt a little bit at a time, and this will flavor your soup. The rest we are holding in reserve to garnish the top of the soup when we serve it. Just as we're holding the bacon bits in reserve to also garnish the top of the soup. There we go. And what the heck, we're going to sneak another handful of cheese in there. Can never have too much. There, mix that around. And this is beautiful. We're going to grab a ladle, and I'm going to show you how to serve up a bowl of potato cheese soup right next. Our potato soup is ready, and it is beautiful. we have that in there. We are going to sprinkle the top with a little bit of cheddar cheese, melt that down on that, and a sprinkle of bacon bits. God, that looks good. That looks so good. Hot and gooey. Perfect. Well, delicious. Well, this is a nice hot bowl of potato cheese soup. I'm gonna go eat, and you guys can join me for my next video. Thank you for tuning in.